Welcome back. Chapter 33. Max saw the call was from Lauren Fold's office. He glanced around the room to make sure he was alone before he answered it. Sarah wouldn't like it. As Lauren had pointed out, their job was to apprehend David Burrows, not help clear him. Sarah would not approve. Hello? I got something, Lauren said. Is Burrows the father? That one I don't know yet. Believe it or not, it took a while to get into the prisoner databank, but I did run the victim's DNA through the missing kid database. And he doesn't pop up. It was a long shot, I guess. No, Max. May I call you Max? Sure. No, Max, it's not a long shot. The missing child databases are pretty complete. When a kid goes missing, the DNA is collected in some way the large majority of the time. Not always, but most of the time. And that's not all. What's not all? I ran a description through every missing kid database, not just DNA sites, all the missing kid sites. Put in the age, size, whatever, and to make sure I didn't miss anything, I made the search federal. The entire United States. Got my best people on it. Because, well, if the victim isn't Matthew Burrows, Christ, it sounds crazy just to say that, but if Matthew isn't the victim, then some other little boy was brutally murdered that night. That's what I've been saying from the jump. Agreed, Max said. And nothing. No matches. Zero. No one even close. Max started twitching. You hear what I'm saying, Max? I do. There's no one else. It has to be Matthew Burrows who was in that bed. He gnawed on a fingernail. You got anything else? What do you mean, do I have anything else? Are you listening to me? Yes. Shit, Laura said. You still want me to run the paternity test? I do. I don't have to, Lauren said. I know. Shit, fine. And then we put this to bed? Deal? Deal. I should have the results soon. Lauren hung up. From behind him, Sarah asked, Who was that, Max? Another case, he mumbled. What's up? What other case? Max knew that she wouldn't let this go. It was a guy, okay? A guy? I met him on a dating app. It's new. I didn't want to say anything. I'm happy for you, Sarah said. Thank you. I'm also not buying it, but we can deal with that later. Let's go. Why? What's up? Burrows just left Burrows just left St. Barnabas Hospital in New Jersey. That's where his ex-wife works. I just wanted to have a normal day, Hayden said. Is that too much to ask? And you should have seen him, Pixie. Just a boy at an amusement park. I don't think I've ever seen Theo so happy. It was all so wonderfully. Hayden looked up at the ceiling as though searching for the right words before settling on. Normal. Normal? Gertrude thought. Nothing about this family or their lives was normal. No one wanted normal. Not really. She remembered when she brought Hayden's father and his siblings to Disneyland a million years ago. She paid the park a ton of money, and so the park opened early for them. The Payne family spent 2 hours alone. The park closed to the normal, and then when the park opened for real, a senior vice president took them around the grounds and moved them to the front of any line. No one who waited 2 hours to go on Space Mountain wanted to be normal on that day. I wish you had told me you planned to take him. You would have stopped me, Hayden replied, and now you know why. I was so careful. I wore a baseball cap and sunglasses. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I kept him away from all the company photographers. And come on, Pixie, what are the odds? He was a little boy when I rescued him. Rescued him? Okay, don't jump to conclusions. Okay. Even if you were looking dead straight at him. There is no way you'd know. And it's not as though he's a missing boy. The world believes he's dead. Gertrude flashed back to the night 5 years ago. Uh-oh, here we go. Hayden hadn't consulted with her first. He hadn't warned her either because he'd known she would never allow it. It was almost morning when he brought the little boy here to the Payne estate. Pixie, I have to tell you something. It is startling what the human mind can justify. We all live via self-justification and self-rationalization. Pixie was hardly immune. Morality is subjective. She could have done the right thing that night, but we only do the right thing when it doesn't cost us. It reminded her of the old chicken extinction question. There is an argument that if we didn't eat chickens, they go extinct. Ergo, it would be bad for chickens to stop eating them. A vegan friend of hers had told Gertrude that this was nonsense, but that wasn't the point. Certainly, millions of chickens get to be born and live, however briefly and brutally, because they will eventually be eaten. Is that life better than none at all? Is it better for the chicken to have a life of, say, 6 weeks than never exist? Who are you to decide that for the chicken? Is it better to stop eating chicken altogether and let the chickens go extinct? Are we actually doing a good thing by eating chicken? On and on and on and on like that. The point isn't that one side is right or wrong. The point is, if you want to eat chicken, you'll use the argument, even if you don't care in the slightest about chickens or their survivals as a species. Because, well, you want to eat chicken. Apply that tenfold to the family. Family matters. Your family, that is. Rich, poor, ancient times, modern days. That's a constant. We all know this. Those who deny it are either delusional or lying. We pay lip service to a vague greater God, but only when it serves our interests. We don't really care about others except when convenient. Don't believe it? Ask yourself this. How many lives would you trade to save your child or grandchild from being killed? 1 person? 5? 10? A million? Be honest with that answer, and perhaps you'll understand what Gertrude did that day. She chose Hayden. She chose her family. We all know the saying that you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. That was true, of course, but in most cases, as in this one, the eggs were already broken. So the question becomes, do you make an omelet or a mess? And yet, Pixie said, spreading her arms, here we are. It's time for you to go, Hayden, both of you. Hayden was looking off. The red stain, he said in a soft voice. Gertrude closed her eyes. She didn't want to hear this again. There was a reason God gave him that on his face. It's a birthmark, Hayden. It's how they spotted him. There's a reason. She knew that wasn't so. It wasn't fate or God's will or any of that. You see a street crossing. Millions of people cross that street every year. Nothing happens. Then one day, a combination of things. Ice on the road, maybe a driver texting too much drink, whatever. And a pedestrian gets hit and killed. It's a 1 in 10 million thing, but it isn't a coincidence. It happens. If it doesn't, there is no story. That photograph was their 1 in 10 million. Or perhaps Hayden was right. Perhaps a higher entity wanted it to happen. Either way, Gertrude said, it's time for you both to leave. It will look suspicious, Hayden said. Rachel asked me for the amusement park photos and I suddenly end up out of the country. Pixie, I have to tell you something. He sounded like such a little boy that night, but that's what men always sounded like when they were in trouble and needed to be saved. So she saved him. She saved her family. She saved them all again. And had she saved Theo? It didn't matter. She would keep this secret again. She had also created a fresh secret, one about the boy, one that no one, not even Hayden, knew. That didn't matter now. None of it did. Once again, Gertrude Payne was left to save the family. And so, no matter the cost to others, she would. Max and Sarah was entering St. Barnabas Medical Center to question Cheryl Burrows when Max's phone buzzed. He saw the incoming call was from Lauren. "Give me a second," he said to Sarah. He moved away from her so she couldn't hear. Sarah still eyed him. He put the phone to his ear and said, "What's up?" "I got the I'm sorry. I'm too excited. "I got the paternity results," Lauren said. She gave it to him. Then she said, "Do you want to tell me what the hell is going on?" "Maybe nothing. Give me an hour." He hung up the phone and came back to Sarah. "Who was that?" she asked. My new guy." "Again? He's kind of needy." "Sarah, did you two meet at summer camp? Does he live in Canada?" "Huh?" "Who called Max?" "You'll see in a minute." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Where's Burrow's ex-wife?" "She's in her office." "Okay, let's go." "Her new husband is here too," Sarah said. "Ronald Dreesen." Max thought about that. Should we divide and conquer?" "No, Max, I think we should stay together on this. I have him cooling off in another room." He didn't protest. They moved down the corridor and into Cheryl Burrows' office. Cheryl Burrows greeted them professionally, as if they were there as patients. She sat behind her desk. They sat in the two chairs in front of it. The office was sparse. Max looked for the diplomas on the wall and saw none. Sarah let Max take the lead. Max dove straight in. "What did your ex-husband say to you?" "Nothing." Like with Hild Winslow, Max shifted in the chair. "He came here to see you, no?" "I don't know why he came here," she said. "You didn't talk?" "He ran out before he could say much." Sarah and Max exchanged a look. Sarah signed and took that one. "We have the security footage, Dr. Burrows." "It's Dreesen now," she said. Sarah was in a mood. "Yeah, whatever. Your ex-husband, the escaped convict who murdered your son, was in this very office for 8 minutes before your husband entered. Are you telling us he didn't say anything in all that time?" Cheryl took her time. She turned toward the office window, and now Max could see the red in her eyes. She'd been crying, no question about it. "I'm not compelled to speak to you, am I?" Sarah looked at Max. Max looked at Sarah. "Why wouldn't you want to speak with us?" Sarah asked. "I have patients. I would like you to leave." Max figured that it was time to drop the bomb. "Your ex-husband," he said. "He's not Matthew's father, is he?" Both women stared at him, stunned. "What are you talking about?" Cheryl asked. Sarah's face was asking the same question. Cheryl said, "Of course David is Matthew's father." "Are you sure?" "What are you getting at, Agent Bernstein?" Sarah was looking at him as though to say, "I'd like to hear the answer too." "When Matthew was murdered," Max continued, "you already knew your current husband, Ronald Dreesen. Isn't that correct? We are colleagues. You weren't sleeping together?" Cheryl didn't rise to the bait. In an even tone, she said, "We were not." "You sure?" "Very," Cheryl said. "What are you getting at, Special Agent? Get to it, please." "I visited the district attorney office who handled your son's murder case. They still have Matthew's DNA on file." Something in Cheryl's face was changing. He could see it. Your ex-husband DNA is on file too. All convicted inmates have to submit a sample, so I had them do a paternity test. Cheryl Dreesen started to shake her head no. According to the test, David Burrows, the man convicted of murdering Matthew Burrows, is not the father of the boy found in the crib. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. Max! Cheryl's voice was barely a whisper. Oh my God. Max kept his eyes on Cheryl. Dr. Dreesen? She just kept shaking her head. David was Matthew's father. The DA results are conclusive. Oh my God. Tears sprang to her eye. Then David is right. About? Matthew is still alive. That's the end of chapter 33. Ooh. But I'm going to see y'all in the next chapter. Bye.